Hey YouTube, Twig here, bringing you all an update to my Triamid Yugioh deck profile for March 2023. I've always liked this rock control deck just for its playstyle, being able to swap out the many different field spells that you run in the deck for the Triamid monsters, and then focusing on more of a lockdown playstyle, just being able to utilize that playstyle in this deck against your opponent with the cards we are running. Definitely makes for an interesting control deck for those of you looking to make one that focuses on what the different field spells can do, and then setting up your Triamid trap card to take out some of your opponent's monsters or resources by using your own rock and field spells in your graveyard. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the main deck monsters. For the Triamid monsters, we're running 3 copies of Triamid Master. Once per turn, you can send one face-up Triamid card you control the graveyard to target one set card on the field, destroy it, and once per turn during your opponent's turn, you can target one Triamid field spell in your field zone, send it to the graveyard, and if you do, activate one Triamid field spell card from your deck with a different name. So we run a good number of different Triamid field spells in the deck, depending on what you need for the specific situation. You can go for it using your Triamid Master and the many other Triamid monsters we're running in the deck, but also just being able to take out our own cards to then basically take care of our opponent's set cards makes it great for that setup and being more of our bigger boss monster to use in the main deck aside from our Triamid Sphinx. I also run 3 copies of Triamid Dancer. Once per turn, you can target one Triamid card in your graveyard, shuffle it into the deck, and if you do, all rock monsters you control gain 500 attack and defense. Once per turn, during your opponent's turn, you can target one Triamid field spell in your field zone, send it to the graveyard, and activate one Triamid field spell card from your deck with a different name. So you have Dancer to allow the same card ability for swapping out the field spells, but with this card you can also recycle back those cards, and the 500 attack and defense gain is a permanent boost for all of your many different Triamid monsters that you have on the field. Just being able to have that attack boost and then also rely on your opponent's turn to swap out the field spell for something specific you may need. The last of the low-level Triamid monsters we run are 3 copies of Triamid Hunter. If a field spell card is face-up on the field, you can normal summon one rock monster in addition to your normal summoner set. You can only gain this effect once per turn, and once per turn during your opponent's turn, you can target one Triamid field spell card in your field zone, send it to the graveyard, and activate one from your deck with a different name. So this one gives you more of the additional normal summon. Setting up 2 Triamid monsters on the field gives you access to 2 different field spell changes as well with both of those cards. And depending on which one you summon out, you can get the attack boost with Dancer or the power destruction with Master. You have all these plays. I feel like we could definitely get another Triamid monster as well, with our newest card just being the continuous spell that we got from Dawn of Majesty a while back to use in the deck. The last of the Triamid monsters we run in the deck is just 2 copies of Triamid Sphinx, with this card being more of an option card for us to rely on being able to then use this card for our power plays. It cannot be normal summon or set. It must be special summon with the effect of a Triamid card and cannot be special summoned by other ways. If a face-up Triamid card you control, except for Triamid Sphinx, is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon this card from your hand while you control another Triamid card, and it also gains 500 attack and defense for each field spell card with a different name in your graveyard. Also, monsters your opponent control cannot attack except for do go to attack Triamid Sphinx. So you can hit for some pretty big numbers with this card, hitting 4,000 points in total with it when you use the setup that this card can provide. With your Triamid Sphinx hitting those 4,000 numbers, you also have the option with this card just to special summon it out when a Triamid card you control, except for Sphinx, is destroyed by battle or card effect. So just being able to also target the Triamid card, sending it to the graveyard, setting up other cards, or if your opponent tries to destroy your Triamid card, you'll have that easy access to your Sphinx from your hand, which you can then also search out with some of the other cards, which I'll go over in just a bit. For the last of the main deck monsters, like I said, this is a control deck, so I am also running 3 copies of Barrier Statue of Drought. With this card, no monster can be special summoned except for Earth monsters. Real lockdown here, because we're only really running Earth monsters in the main deck to begin with, and the good majority of what we want to go for in the extra deck are Earth attribute as well. Running a good variety in the extra deck for one of our other spell choices, but still, you have this card just to set up on the field for that normal summon, and then your opponent can't really do much, and then just being able to have that summon. Being able to normal summon one additional rock monster means you can summon out your Triamid Hunter, and then just normal summon Barrier Statue of Drought, having your Triamid monster ready to go for that field spell setup as well. Moving on now to the spells for the field spells. Like I said, we're running a good majority of field spells in the deck since it's the main purpose. We're running 3 copies of Triamid King Golem. With this card, all rock monsters on the field gain 500 attack. If a Triamid monster you control battles your opponent's card, and effects cannot be activated until the end of damage step. If this face-up card in the field zone is sent to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 Triamid monster from your hand. You can only use this effect of King Golem once per turn. So you get the additional special summon when you send it to the graveyard to activate another Triamid card, and also just have the attack gain, and also make it so your opponent can't activate card and effects until the end of damage step, meaning you can go for some of your heavy hitters with your Triamid monsters to swing into your opponent with no fear at all. I also run 3 copies of Triamid Cruiser. With this card in the deck, your Triamid monsters, each time a rock monster is normal summon, gain 500 life points. And if a Triamid monster is normal summon, you can draw 1 card, then discard 1 card. If this face-up card in the field zone is sent to the graveyard, you can add 1 Triamid monster from your deck to your hand. You can only use this effect of Cruiser once per turn. You have more search power, being able to search out your go-to boss monster, like I said, as a way to add it to your hand. And then the life point gain is just an added small bonus to use in the deck. The main play you'll want to use with this card is obviously the search, and then also just being able to have the draw power when you normal summon a Triamid monster. I'm also running 3 copies of the last field spell, which is your Triamid Fortress. With this card, all rock monsters on the field gain 500 defense. Triamid monsters on the field cannot be destroyed by card effects, and if this face-up card in the field zone is sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 Triamid monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand. So the final of the field spell setups, you have more of a recycle from the graveyard thanks to this card, and also more of a defensive play, since you do have some Triamid monsters with higher defense that you may want to focus on when summoning them out onto the field. The newest card that we run for the Triamid deck is Triamid Loading, with this card being your continuous spell, so it's not another field spell for us to use. If a field spell is placed on the field zone, you can add 1 Triamid spell trap from your deck to your hand, except for Triamid Loading. If a face-up rock monster you control is destroyed by battle or opponent's card effect, you can special summon 1 Triamid monster with a different name from your deck. So this just gives you more of a resource to rely on against your opponent, being able to then have that monster have the additional search of that monster once destroyed, giving you another monster with a different name from your deck, and also giving you more of a search power, being able to just easily search out your Triamid Trap when you activate a field spell after activating your Triamid Loading. And I also run 3 copies of Pod of Extravagance. This is the card I mentioned before, with this card having more of a setup, being able to give you more of a draw power in hand. The extra deck isn't really something we rely on too much in this deck. It is more of a control deck that can focus on the main deck, so you can focus the entire extra deck just on being able to go for some of the resources you go banish with your Pod of Extravagance. And then for the rest of this turn, after this card resolves, you cannot draw cards by any effect. So this may limit you with some of the field spell plays, but it gives you more of a draw resource to at least have more back row and monster setup, or the field spell you may need to activate on the field to begin with. With the last of these spells that I run in the deck is 1 Monster Reborn and 1 Terraforming, just as another resource with Monster Reborn to go back onto the field, and Terraforming to search out whatever field spell we may need to begin that play. Moving on now to the traps, I run 3 copies of Triamid Pulse. With this card in the deck, it's the one go-to card that can destroy a lot of resources that you may want to go for with your opponent's cards. And your Triamid Pulse, once per turn, you can banish 2 cards from your graveyard, any combination of rock-type monsters or field spell cards, then activate 1 of these effects, target 1 other face-up monster on the field, destroy it, or just a face-up card, not a monster, so remember that. Or you can target 1 rock monster in your graveyard, special summon it in defense, or you can target up to 3 field spell cards in the graveyard, shuffle them into the deck, and draw 1 card. So you're going to go through your field spells pretty fast with all the different Triamid card effects, so being able to give you a draw there. Or if you just want to take out that 1 face-up card your opponent may have, having this card as your go-to trap, and one that can be easily searched with cards like Triamid Loading, makes it all the easier for you to get this resource into your hand. Since this is a more control setup deck, I also run 3 copies of Summon Limit. Neither player can summon more than 2 times per turn. That's really all you need. You have the additional normal summon with Triamid Hunter. If you don't go into the extra deck, it's really not a play you have to rely on. You can just use your normal summon to get out 1 additional Triamid monster, and then it really will affect a lot of the decks that your opponent may try to use when you activate your Summon Limit and they go for an extra deck play. And then for the last of the main deck cards, 3 copies of Solemn Strike. I thought about running Infinite Impermanence, but I figured Solemn Strike was better for a control option, just in case there's that 1 special summon monster or monster effect that would get around the control playstyle that your deck was trying to go for. And then as for the extra deck monsters, I run 1 copy of Gallant Granite for the Rock Monster Search that we have in the deck, and also 1 copy of Tornado Dragon. Like I said, these are more generic ones. You want to hope you don't hit more of the rock options. If you want to, you can run more copies of Gallant Granite over some of the more generic monsters that we're running in the deck, but still 1 copy of Abyss Dweller, 1 Gorgonic Guardian. This can be increased as well. Also 1 Phantom Knights of Breaksword, 1 Leviair the Sea Dragon, and 1 Dante, Traveler of the Burning Abyss. For more of the graveyard setup, for more of our field spells, if we do go into this. For the Link monsters, I'm running 3 copies of Mrs. Radiant. Now, this card is in here for the fact that we do run Pot of Extravagance, so you do want an easier Link monster to boost the power of your Earth attribute monsters on the field. So I do go into this quite often in the deck, but there's a chance with Extravagance that you'll hit a copy of it. So 3 copies of it, just for bettering our odds of not having it go to the graveyard. With the other Link monsters being 1 copy of Asa the Earth Charmer, 1 Barricade Board Blocker, 1 IP Masquerena, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, and also 1 copy of Saryuja Skull Dragon to finish up our Link monster lineup. And then as for some of the go-to plays in the deck for our setup, you can rely on your play style depending on what you want to go for. Just sometimes setting up that 1 go-to Triamid monster in the field zone, and then being able to set up your other additional monster afterwards makes it all the worth it, because then you'll summon out your monster and then have the additional play of your field spell once you activate it on the field as well. And then if you just pass on to your opponent's turn, you can even have that 1 setup back row. So depending on what that back row is, you can activate it and shut down your opponent, activating your Triamid to also set up more of your field spells depending on which one you want to go for on the play. And then from there, when it's activated or when it's sent to the graveyard, you have the additional effect. So depending on what field spell you set, you'll have the option to add and recycle. That'll come down to what you also want to activate on the field, because then you have more of a card that you want to set up is Triamid Cruiser, because then when this card is sent, you can add Triamid Monster from your deck to your hand. So if you send this card, then activate a different one, you'll have that search power for being able to add your Triamid Sphinx to your hand, which then if your opponent destroys your master, you then have the special summon of your Sphinx onto the field. That makes it a little more difficult for your opponent to get over, and if you already worked on some of the field spells, tag out, you'll have more of a power boosted monster on the field, since your Triamid Sphinx also gains 500 attack and defense for each field spell, making it the defensive play and your opponent very limited to what they can summon out. If you had your go-to continuous spell, your Triamid Loading, already on the field, and then you activated the field spell, that'll give you another search to be able to add a Triamid Spell Trap, so then you can add your Triamid Pulse to your hand and then be able to set that card as well, giving you more of a destruction play by being able to banish 2 cards from your graveyard, any combination of rock and or field spells, to either get rid of an opponent's monster, recycle some of your own resources, or give you more of a special summon from other cards you had in the graveyard as well. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. I always love going to take a look back at the Triamid deck. Like I said, I missed the opportunity when the Dawn of Majesty set came out. I just didn't have all the cards gathered for an update to it, but I hope you all enjoyed. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.